Welcome to Top Table Gaming. Today we're going to be looking at some good legendary legions from the War in Rohan book. Hey guys, welcome to Top Table Gaming. You're here with your host Top Table Ben.
And Top Table Steve.
And today we are going to be looking at some of the new legendary legions from the War in Rohan book. This is a book that we've been excited for a long time, so it's great to have been able to kind of take a bit more of a deep dive into it, take a bit more time to look over the profiles and the legendary legions in it, and try and come up with how we would best use those legendary legions.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think to start with, shall we take a look at the two new good profiles that are in the book, or the two good new Rohan profiles that are in the book. So first up, we have Aldor Rohan Archer. So this one that we were quite excited for when we saw it released from Forge World. Lovely, lovely model.
It's gorgeous.
And
both of them are.
I love the fact that they are doing some fan service to these kind of really minor characters. Really,
yeah.
You know, people that only get a very, very short snapshot in the film, and then we kind of don't see them ever again. But it's great that these people are now getting their own models and getting their own profiles. So Aldor is 20 points and is an independent hero, so he's not exactly particularly cost prohibitive.
No, you're just dropping him in other warbands, aren't you?
Exactly, yeah. You know, he's not going to be like an Aragorn sort of chopping through troops and things. So kind of our expectation of his stat line is going to be pretty low. So he's got 6 movement, fight 3, strength 3, defense 4, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 4. But he does have 1 might, will, and fate. So he's a little bit like a Druadan or a Ranger of the North, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he's awesome.
So let's take a look at his heroic actions. What does he have, Steve?
He's only got the one, alongside all the normal ones that you get anyway, and that is heroic accuracy.
Okay,
so it's fitting for his profile.
Absolutely, and I think that when we take a look at the the legendary legions shortly, I think that will fit in very, very usefully with him. So he has got some special rules. He has got the unsteady nerve special rule. Do you want to read that out?
Yep, so Aldor must always shoot first in the shoot phase, even before heroic shoots are resolved.
That's pretty cool. So before anybody else, before any heroic shoots or anything, that's pretty cool.
If it comes off, it's going to be awesome.
Exactly.
It's not as broken as people were thinking it was at the get-go.
No, because it's a strength 2 bow at the end of the day, and you know it needs. It's not great. He does have the lucky shot special rule though, which Aldor must re-roll, fail to hit and to wound rolls when firing his bow. Ultimately, I think it only works out of being like a 3+, or I think it may even be a 4+. Anyway, so it's not as though he, as I say, he's absolutely broken. But it does give him those, gives him an opportunity to do like he does in the film, get that lucky shot and kill somebody in the first turn before any combats have even started.
Yeah, and if it comes off, how cool is that going to be?
You
know it's going to put a smile on your face.
Exactly. He's not going to win games for you, but that's going to be cool when it comes off.
You shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I think you'll find it.
So let's move on to the next new profile for Rohan, which is Haleth, son of Hammer. So he is 30 points and is an independent hero. Let's have a look at his stat line.
So he's move 6, as you'd expect. Fight 3, 4+ shoot value, strength 3, defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 5, and he has might, will, fate of 1, 1, 2.
Excellent. So he has got heroic defense, which is great for trying to keep him safe, which could potentially be quite useful for this guy, especially where his special rules are concerned, because I think some armies might kind of be pivotal around this guy. So his special rules is there is always hope. Once within 6 inches of Aragorn, Haleth increases attacks to 2, which makes him that little bit more fighty, shall we say. So takes him up to 2 attacks. He only fight 3 though, but when we look at the legendary legions and what he can be allied with and some of the special rules there, again, I think that can be quite useful. Can be turned to your advantage. What's his next special rule?
Special rule is called Fight to the Last. If at the start of the fight phase, Haleth is engaged in combat for the duration of the turn, Aragorn and other friendly Rohan infantry models, nearly forgot the infantry, within 6 inches of Haleth, add 1 to their fight value. This benefit ends immediately if Haleth is slain.
That's pretty solid. So if you think about it, that's taking Rohan Royal Guard up to fight 5, which is good. I think my first reaction to it was, oh my god, Aragon goes up to fight 7. But actually, I think some of the real benefits, because it's I know Aragon does sometimes have to strike, but it does kind of give him that edge over those higher tier heroes. But actually, the majority of your army is fighting against kind of fight 3, 4, 5 probably troops. So actually, to buff the troops from fight 4 to fight 5, and even the warriors of Rohan from fight 3 to fight 4, is quite useful. So.
Some 6-inch bubble as well.
Yeah, so
big old bubble.
That is a big bubble. If you think about it, that's 12 inches across the
13 because of his base.
Well, yeah, exactly, across the table. So it is covering quite a decent chunk. So I think his special rules are not to be underestimated.
No.
And as I said, I think they are going to be quite pivotal to how the Legendary Legions work.
Yeah, the fact that he's got heroic defense as his action ties in to fight to the last, I think, as well.
Absolutely.
If he dies, you lose it. So he also needs to be in combat for that special rule to kick in.
Exactly.
So he needs to be survivable.
So he's almost slightly at risk if you've got him in combat, and he is going to be target priority for your opponent. He's probably going to be priority for shooting. So you are going to probably want to keep him back, at the back of the lines until the lines hit, and then try and get him in. I did hear somebody saying that Grimmer would be probably the best person for him to come up against, because you can keep him right at the back of your army where Grimmer is probably going to be, and he can just be kind of constantly fighting against him.
Sneaky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sneaky.
Proper sneaky. But two really, really cool profiles. We did have a glimpse of these quite a while ago when they were released, and we were quite excited about them then. But now that I've thought about them and I've seen how they tie in with the Legendary Legions, I'm really excited. So shall we jump in and have a look at the Legendary Legions for Rohan?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first up we are going to be looking at the Defenders of Helm's Deep Legendary Legions. So I think it's really important when we look at each of these Legendary Legions to remember that what the intention of the designers were. Now this is, as the name suggests, is the Defenders of Helm's Deep. So these are the guys that were fighting on the walls of Helm's Deep. So it's going to be the Lorien Elves, it's going to be Warriors of Rohan, it's going to be Theoden, the 3 Hunters, everybody that we kind of expect to be there. So let's have a quick look at the army composition. So first up, you've got Theoden, King of Rohan with heavy armour and shield. You've got Gambling Captain of Rohan, Aldor, Haleth, King's Huntsman, Captains of Rohan, Aragorn with armour, Legolas, Gimli, Haldi with heavy armour and elf bow, Galadrim Captain, Warriors of Rohan, Rohan Royal Guard and Galadrim Warriors. So quite a diverse mix of troops and hero choices there. But one thing that you'll notice is none of them are mounted, which obviously fits the theme of this Legendary Legion.
Yep. So, as with a lot of the other Legendary Legions, they do come with their own set of special rules.
Indeed.
The special rules, should we do their additional rules?
Yes,
first. Let's cover their additional rules. So, the additional rules are as follows. Defenders of Helm's Deep Force must include Theoden, and Theoden is always the army leader, which he should be.
Absolutely.
All models from this Legendary Legion must have the infantry keyword. Defenders of Helm's Deep Legendary Legion may only have a maximum of 33% of its models with the Lorien keyword. So it's stopping you spamming, and it's keeping the theme of the list.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is perfect.
Because obviously you didn't see just a pure elf army with Rohan heroes in Helm's Deep. So that's absolutely in keeping with the theme. Yeah. So the special rules for this Legendary Legion is fight in ranks. Friendly Rohan infantry models armed with throwing spears may use them as a standard spear in addition to their normal use. However, if a model uses their spear as a throwing spear in a turn, they cannot use it as a standard spear in the same turn. Which is quite cool.
I think that is going to be massive. I really do. I think it's underrated already.
It completely changes the way that Rohan is used. So at the moment, Rohan has always been a mounted, and the only way that you would probably see Rohan infantry being used is if they were upgraded to Helmingus. So this gives you that kind of an opportunity to use them as a shield wall type thing with 2 attacks. And potentially depending, that extra versatility of being able to use them as throwing spears as well. Their second special rule is give them a volley. Models from this Legendary Legion armed with either a bow, longbow or elf bow may increase the range of their type of bow from 24 inch to 30 inches provided they have not moved that turn.
Again, that's huge.
That's a big change, that.
Turn 1, that's it.
Yeah. So, if you're deploying completely opposite ends of the board to your opponent, that means that they've got to move that extra turn to get within range, of firing at you. So hopefully by the time they get in range to shoot back at you, you've already whittled them down. It's forcing them to then come to you.
You can almost shoot them straight off the bat. They've got to move then again, so you're getting like another
Exactly.
free round of shooting, which is great.
Exactly.
You're setting up on the edge of the board, aren't you?
Indeed. Yes, you are setting up as far back as you can get to make the most of that special rule. And then the last special rule that they've got is fall back to the keep. If this force is broken, then warrior models from this force add 1 to their courage value. Additionally, if this force is broken, friendly warrior models may reroll failed courage tests whilst they're within 6 inches of Theoden. That's cool.
That's cool.
Nice thematic rule there.
Yeah. And useful, I think.
Very useful. I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of courage. You know, they always look at the attacks and defence and things like that, but actually courage, especially late game, is so important. You know, so actually once your force is broken, that's when you need your warriors to hang around the most.
You could have the most well-written list, but if you, like you say, if you get broken, it's domino effects.
It is, and
you're losing.
You know, as soon as you start losing the odd hero here and there, you know, the rest of the troops can crumble. So that +1 to the courage value is fantastic, and re-rolling failed courage next to Theoden is fantastic as well. So let's have a little bit of a chat about how we think this list will be built. I think that with having access to Lorien and having access to 33% of the army as Lorien, I think that we will see an abundance of bows.
Oh yes.
And especially with the give them a volley special rule as well, giving you the opportunity to fire even further. I think that is a really kind of key part of this legendary legion.
It's going to be massive. I mean, you were talking to me earlier and pointing out a few little things, little tips and tricks you could do with it. It's going to be tough to counter, and it is. I think it's going to be a case of just heroic marching as quick as you can across the table, get to you.
Absolutely.
You mentioned about a certain hero that can help them out.
Yeah, so if we think about one of the 2 new profiles that we have seen so far and the special rules that they've got, we have got Aldor, who we were kind of talking about his profile earlier and his special rules. So obviously he gets to shoot first ahead of anybody else in the army. But where I think he can potentially be quite useful is in calling heroic shoots with your army. So even if you lose priority, you can then be firing first across the board. And I know he's only got that 1 point of might, but Rohan is built about having regenerative might. And there is a certain other hero, and who might that be, Mr. Steve Crow?
Gambling.
Absolutely. So if you take Gambling with Banner, he will regain that point of might each turn.
Every turn.
So you'll be able to call heroic shoots every turn with your army that's firing further with a lot of strength 3 bows. That could be particularly devastating.
It could be, and I would like to go a step further with that, because the King's Huntsman is in this list.
He is indeed.
Very rarely used.
And
he has another opportunity. His special rules are cool as well, and he can also regenerate might by killing heroes.
He can.
So he's your sniper. If he's getting to go first, you know, and he can use his might to make sure he does what he needs to do. He'll get might back for killing heroes. If he doesn't get that, he'll get might back from gambling. So again, it's
he's constantly getting might back. So it's great. You could even almost even call heroic accuracy with one and heroic shoots with the other to make sure that is particularly deadly. And that first volley of arrows that you are, or those first 2 or 3 turns when you're shooting, you are taking out big chunks of the army.
Going first, re-rolling in the ways. And getting might back at the end of the turn regardless.
And being able to shoot before your opponent every turn as well.
That's going to be fun.
Wow.
I might try that out.
I think you need to. So I think there are a few kind of bits that are quite there are a lot of things that need to go right in your way. You need to deploy right. You need to make sure if you're deploying with Maelstrom that they all kind of come on together as well. So there are a few things that need to go your way for that to happen, but I think that can be particularly useful.
I think we'll see this list a lot.
I think we will as well. I think one of the other things to point out as well is Haleth. Obviously, if you take him, and take some Rohan Royal Guard, for example, who can spear support because they have got throwing spears.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he goes up to fight 5. You're taking Aragorn in the list as well, which is quite a big tax, don't get me wrong, you know, he is very points heavy, but all of a sudden he goes up to, you know, his fight goes up. He goes
fight 7.
Aragorn's fight goes up, but also the fight value of the Rohan Royal Guard goes up, who could potentially be supporting Haleth. So all of a sudden he's then got 3 attacks, which makes him quite durable in combat. And if he does sort of happen to be in a bit of trouble or a bit bother, you could always call that heroic defense. And obviously, if you've got gambling in that list as well, he is constantly generating that point of might back. So actually, you could be quite frivolous with it. You can use it to call either heroic moves if you need to, or you can use it to call that heroic defense. Should you feel like he's in a little bit of trouble.
You've got enough cheap heroes in there to be able to do that as well. To start controlling the battlefield. And just being able to call heroic defense, knowing you're getting that point of might back next turn, means that yes, he's defense 4 years, but he's still only going to be receiving wounds on natural 6s.
On that natural 6s, so you know it's going to be rare. You'd hope that it's going to be rare anyway. And even if he does take the odd wound, he's got 2 wounds and he's got 2 points of fate, so he's not that squishy. And I think, you know, there are a few bits that can definitely benefit him there if you play him.
You've got to be intelligent with him. And use that defense. It's there for a reason. Use it, and I don't think you'll go far wrong.
Absolutely. So overall, I think that's quite an interesting one. This list came 3rd at Scouring of Cheshire.
It did, yes.
With Mr. World Champion. So it's already, and now he is a very talented player, don't get me wrong, he's a very talented player.
Well, he's GBHL champion.
Well, he is.
Mr. Champion is.
Mr. Champion. So, you know, it clearly is a very good list, and he clearly sees some potential in it. So, you know, I think we will see this being played quite a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how the meta responds to this over the next few months.
Yeah, it's got unseen advantages that have yet to be used a lot, so I think it was taking people by surprise a lot.
Absolutely.
What it can do. So, but apart from that, even when people get used to it, I think it's going to be a very popular list.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give it a go anyway.
I'd love to. I'd love to. So let's move on to the next legendary legion, which is Theodred's Guard. So Theodred's Guard is essentially designed around the Fords of Isen, which is where Theodred was, mortally wounded against Uruk-hai, and you know this is to represent something that we didn't necessarily see in the film, but it is something that is represented in, I think it's Unfinished Tales, the book, so that you can read a little bit more about it there. So let's have a look at the army composition. So obviously we've got Theodred in there, who has access to all the toys, Elfhelm, Grimbold, Captains of Rohan, Warriors of Rohan, Riders of Rohan, Rohan Royal Guard, and Rohan Outriders. So the list is a little bit more restrictive.
Yes.
It's not quite as expansive as the Helms Deep one, but there are obviously a few special rules that will make you want to take this list.
Yes.
So tell us about the additional rules.
So the additional rules, there's not many. Basically, is in Theodred's Guard, Theodred must always be the leader, which
absolutely makes sense. You know, it's his guard, so he should always be the leader.
We've got some special rules. Protect the Prince. All models in this force gain the Sworn Protector with the Theodred name special rule, so they've all got bodyguard. Essentially, which is great. So they're going to be passing everything is going to be passing courage checks, which is pretty good because you're charging terrifying enemies, no problem.
You're
sticking around on your courage checks if you're broken, as long as Theodred is still alive.
That's so he's the really important one. Now he is a bit of a loose cannon, so he will try and charge where he can. So there will be a little bit of careful positioning and making sure that he's got plenty of backup to make sure he doesn't get too overrun, because you know this entire army does pivot around him essentially.
If he dies, it's not so good.
Which kind of again leads me on to the next special rule, which is Riders of Theodred. Captains of Rohan, Riders of Rohan, and Rohan Royal Guard treat Theodred as if they were the Theoden for the purpose of their Arise Riders of Theoden special rule. I think the designers have tried to make this a desirable list to go for, and if they lack that potentially, because that is seen as quite a strong buff, you know, that they go up to strength 4 on the charge. It's essentially just to try and make sure that people aren't thinking, well, that is a better bonus than what Theodred's Guard bring. So I think that is quite an important one for this. They also have the Fight in Rank special rule, which friendly Rohan infantry models armed with throwing spears may use them as standard spears in addition to their normal use. However, if a model uses their spear as a throwing spear in a turn, they cannot use it as a standard spear in the same turn. Exactly the same as we saw in the Helms Deep Legendary Legion as well.
I really think that that's going to come in its own.
Yes, absolutely, and I think in this list especially, I think we will definitely see that. So, what do you think of the list? What key things really stick out to you?
For me, it's a really cool list. The theme's really cool. It's the way it's put together. You said it's quite limited, but that kind of suits the kind of list it is. It's kind of a scout force.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of things rely on Theoden being there.
Yes.
If he goes, the force will fall to pieces.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to take a little bit of practice to get used to using. But
I don't think it'd be quite as forgiving as other legendary legions. No. But then this game is all about the heroes. So I think if you are going to need to be quite careful around which heroes you protect and how you protect them as well. So one thing that I would really kind of focus on is having Grimbold in there, and I would be very, very keen to upgrade any warriors that you've got up to strength 4 from strength 3. It just means that there's so much defense 6 plus out there. You're then going to be wounding defense 6 on 5s rather than on 6s. You are killing twice as many essentially.
Yeah, it's massive.
And if you're arming them with axes as well, potentially they can piercing strike, which takes them up that extra strength as well, which is absolutely fantastic. It just makes them that little bit more choppy and that little bit more killy. What I would potentially think though is having this as like a combined arms force, that you definitely want to have some guys on foot, as like an anvil almost. And obviously because now you've got the spear supports for them as well, can work really, really well. But also I think you do need some mounted guys as well to be able to flank your enemy and to sort of charge at the key moment to make sure that you're trapping, and that you kind of you have got some of that manoeuvrability in there, which the infantry only army doesn't potentially give you.
It's going to take a little bit of finesse. Like you say, I think you 100% right. You're going to have a contingent of mounted and a contingent of foot models to get to get all the bonuses that are there waiting for you to use. You have to do that because you can't just bring Grimbold on his own. That's just silly. So I think it's going to take a little bit of finesse to play the force and kind of iron out all the creases and find out what it does well and what it doesn't do so well.
Ultimately, you are going to have to take troops on foot as well, because of this doesn't have the 33% bow limit, or this has the 33% bow limit applied to it, so you couldn't just take all riders for this force. So as you say, I think it will take a little bit of finessing. It'll take you a few games to try and get it right and make sure that your positioning's right, but I think this could be quite a hard hitter, if you do it in the right way. Potentially not as forgiving as some of the other legendary legions, but I think it is very cool anyway. So let's move on to the next legendary legion. Next up, we have the Riders of Eomer. So this is to represent all the riders coming to the aid of Helms Deep and charging down the hill into all those Uruk-hai that are kind of surrounding the walls.
Cool scene.
Very, very cool scene. And I think this represents it so well. So have a look at the army composition. We have Eomer, Marshal of the Riddermark on horse, Erkenbrand, Captain of Rohan on horse, Gandalf the White on Shadowfax. Very cool. Captains of Rohan on horse and Rise of Rohan. So a very, very limited list there. Even more limited than Theoden's Guard.
Fully mounted.
All fully mounted as well, which is good. Additional rules, let's have a look.
So the additional rules are all Riders of Eomer force must include Eomer, and Eomer is always the leader. All models in a Riders of Eomer force must be cav models, which you've mentioned. Riders of Rohan within this legendary legion do not count towards your forces bow limit.
So you can just have them all as riders with bows as well, which is good. Special rules wise, they have To the King. Friendly Rohan cavalry models within 12 inches of Eomer gain +1 strength on a turn in which they charge. That can be particularly useful, and obviously I know it's one of the strengths of Rohan as it is. I don't necessarily think that Rohan struggles in killing, because as long as they win the combats, they are rolling a lot of dice. Generally, even a lowly rider is rolling 4 dice to wound, and generally you should be rolling a 5 or 6 on those, because obviously they go up to strength 4 on the charge. It means that they are only needing 5s on defense 6 models, so it just makes them that little bit more killy as well. They also have the Look to the Sun special
you
rule.
like this one,
I like this one. I played against it and it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. So tell us what it is, Steve.
Once per battle, so long as Gandalf is alive and in your force, you can declare that you're using this ability to at the start of any friendly model move phase. Until the end of the turn, enemy models that are engaged with or supporting a model engaged with any friendly cavalry models that made a charge that turn suffer a penalty of -1 to their duel rolls.
So you know how everyone hates the shade?
Oh yeah.
Everyone hates the shade. This is like a board-wide shade.
Once per game.
For once per game. But I think it's all you need.
Yeah.
So I think this has been compared to the way that some people used to use the old Rivendell Knights lists with Saruman before the rules changed, and basically it's trying to shoot your opponent to death, and then when it gets to kind of crunch time, hopefully you whittle their numbers down enough and just kind of strike at the key moments. So obviously, because everybody's got bows, you can sort of do a little bit of killing from afar. And then when you kind of get into that sort of charge range, make sure that you get the charge off with as many guys as possible.
All of them.
With all of them.
All
the guys. You call look to the sun. So all your opponent gets -1 to their duel roll, which is horrible. And make sure that all your heroes in and you're calling heroic combats as well. Heroic combats.
Remember this game?
Yes, I remember this game. Make sure you're calling heroic combats as well, because actually they are likely to win the duel. Hopefully, if they're charging in, they're likely to win they're going to likely to kill their opponents as well, and then you can charge on and move into somebody else to do even more killing.
You're going to do a lot of killing in that turn.
Absolutely.
Unless your dice fail you, but generally you're going to do a lot of damage.
At -1, you might lose the odd one, but actually generally the odds are going to be in your favour that you are going to win a lot of those combats. I think that if played well, I think this can be a very good army. Now, obviously, you have got quite a high tax because obviously to make use of that, you need Gandalf in the army and you need Eomer. So Gandalf is 240 points and Eomer is 110 points. So you're looking at over 300 points there spent on heroes already. So it is going to be quite a small force. It is going to be quite an elite force. So I think a lot of the time you are going to be quite reliant on making sure you whittle down some of your enemy first, and that
you're going to want weaving up them numbers before you get in there, and
you are striking at the right moment. Don't charge in too soon and just try and go sort of headlong into it, because if you do that, I think you're going to have a bad time.
Do you think you're going to see a lot of it?
I think we'll see quite a lot of that. I think
higher points costs.
I think potentially higher points, because Gandalf is the Swiss Army knife of casters, isn't he? He's really good. He's got very low casting values. He can do a lot for your army, but he is just very expensive. So
he's combating as well now. I would like to play it, but for me, I'd want to be 650 plus before I run it. Reason being is I would like to get a banner in there as well, just for that turn, to make sure if I did roll badly,
you've got the extra opportunity. Absolutely, that would make sense.
But I think above 650, I think that's going to be a really formidable force.
So I just think that Look to the Sun rule is very deadly, and you're talking about having a few more kind of riders and stuff in there. The To the King rule works across 12 inches, so that's 24 or over 24 inches of the battlefield.
Should be
you should be able to cover pretty much everybody that is charging in that turn. So you are getting that +1 strength on the charge. Overall, I think that's going to be quite a formidable one. As you say, maybe at slightly higher points values, but it will be interesting to see how that one gets on over a few games.
I think you've done a really good job on all of them
so far.
I think
they're very balanced. I'm
very different.
I'm struggling to think which one I'd want to play.
All of them, mate.
Yeah, well, all of them. But I'm also thinking of which one would I not want to play against. And I'm struggling with that. That rule is horrible. Absolutely
each one of
horrible.
them has got its own little thing. So you've got the shade effects, you've got the bodyguard, and then you've just got that, which is insane.
You've got loads of stuff. So let's move on to the last legendary legion for Rohan, which is Paths of the Druadan.
Cool. So Paths of the Druadan, the army composition is Theoden, King of Rohan on armoured horse, Emil, Marsher of Riddelmar on armoured horse, Dernhelm, Daewine, Chief of the King's Knights with horse. Elf Helm on horse. Gamling on horse. Garn Burrigan. Captain of Rohan with horse. Rider of Rohan. Rohan Royal Guard with horse. Rohan Outrider with horse. First time I've seen an Outrider in any list. And Woses.
Okay, so this is to kind of represent the point in between Helms Deep and the King's the Theoden and the Three Hunters going towards Minas Tirith to help out essentially. So they use the Druadan forest to kind of get a shortcut basically, and they use the Woses and Garn Burrigan to give them that kind of advantage and showing them the way. So there are some additional rules for this force. So a path of the Druadan force must always include Theoden, King of Rohan, who is always the army's leader, which absolutely 100% makes sense.
Yep.
A pass of the Druadan force must always include Garn Burrigan and a full warband of Woses warriors. Garn Burrigan is the only hero that can include Woses warriors in his warband, so you are limited. I think he's a hero of fortitude, so I think he can take up to 15.
Yeah.
And Riders of Rohan within this legendary legion do not count towards your force's bow limit. So immediately you do have a slight tax on this force. So you have to take those Woses, Garn Burrigan and Theoden, which all of a sudden, I think they're about 300 points for everything. Yeah. So you have already got that kind of tax on this. But they do have some special rules. So first special rule, Steve.
It's called waypoints. At the start of the game, before either side has deployed, this Legendary Legion's controlling player may place 3 25mm waypoint markers anywhere on the board. Whilst within 6 inch of a friendly waypoint marker, friendly Rohan models do not suffer any penalties for moving or charging through difficult terrain.
That's very good.
That is very good.
It's very good. And it says 6 inches of the friendly waypoint. 6 inches is quite big. So if you think, especially in
12-inch ball.
Especially on in tournament play, you will see a lot of the Citadel Woods and the bases. So that takes up a good sort of 12 inches.
You put your marker down next to a wood,
and that all of a sudden that goes away.
Yep.
And that it's difficult terrain and things like that. That actually is a cavalry player's worst enemy.
Yeah.
That's what nobody wants to see. That's what nobody wants to play on. So that kind of really negates some of those negatives of an all-mounted army.
3 of them.
Yeah, three of them.
How often on a board do you see more than 3 areas of
difficult
wood
terrain.
Or difficult terrain? Quite rare, to be honest.
Yep.
Unless you go to the scout room, but it's quite rare.
Well, it's quite rare. It is quite rare.
So he's kind of negating that.
Yeah.
I think that's really good.
I think that's really good.
Really good.
Next one is Kill Orc Folk. Friendly models may re-roll 1s to wound when making strikes against any Orc, Goblin or Urukai model. So it's situational, but when it comes off and when you are facing those models, it can be pretty good. So that's going to be probably a little bit better in good versus evil sort of matters, I think.
That's basically the Bane rule. Is that re-roll 1s? Or is that plus
it could be. I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's,
but it's re-rolling 1s against those. As I say, it's situational, and there are certain countries that tend to play good versus evil more, whereas we, here we tend to just play kind of bring an army and play. So that might come into better use in those sort of situations, and it might encourage people to play good versus evil a little bit more, just to make sure. Yeah, so do I.
Yeah,
so it might be good to see that special rule in action. And the last one is know all the paths.
Yep, so if during the move phase, models from both sides have declared a heroic move, and a roll-off is required to see which side's heroic move happens first, this force will gain a bonus to that roll. If they would normally win the roll-off on a 4+, they will instead win the roll-off on a 3+. If they would normally win the roll-off on a 1, 2 or 3, they will instead win it on a 1, 2, 3 or a 4. Which is
for
pretty
cavalry
good.
player.
Yeah,
that is amazing. That
good.
is really, really good. So as a cavalry player, you always want to be essentially moving first. If it gets to the point where you're calling heroic moves, you want to be moving first, don't you?
Yeah.
So it gives you that advantage there. To make sure that you are getting that charge off when you need it.
It's tipping the scales a little bit towards you, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So how many times have you lose a roll off and it's only by 1 or something like that, and you're so frustrated, but it's the way the dice roll. This just tips. So you're going to be winning 2 out of 3 times essentially.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, what you find is if you are a cavalry player or probably more in my case playing against a cavalry player. sometimes you'll call a heroic move as a counter, even though you're not really getting any other benefit other than stopping the charge.
Exactly.
And you know that might make certain players think twice about doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all about kind of putting that doubt in their mind. Well, even if they call it, it might just, I'm only going to win 1/3 of the time. So am I just better?
I'd rather have the might and win one of the, for the combat.
Exactly. So it just kind of puts that little doubt in your opponent's mind there as well. So it's extra things to think about. This negates some of the downsides of of a Rohan, of a mounted army. In the waypoints rule, no all paths also helps, because obviously you are negating that roll off kind of risk, I guess. And there are a lot of heroes in there that you can take that will have a lot of points of might, and obviously you have got gambling in there as well to potentially replenish some of that might should you decide to choose him. Personally, I'm not entirely sure how I would play this army. Obviously, you've got Garnbury Garn, you will have 15 Woses. So you potentially can use those as guys to sit on objectives or kind of hold back. And you could then use kind of almost an all hero army. So you could have Theoden, Eomer, Helm, Deowine, gambling. Kind of take all those guys to do a little bit more killing. But I do think there is quite a tax on this army with Garnbury Garn, Woses and Theoden being needed to be included.
I think to get the special rules that it offers, I think that is quite well balanced though.
Yes, absolutely.
Because otherwise getting them bonuses and not having
for
that
free
tax
would
be like game breaking.
Exactly.
I quite like the look of it. Similar to what we spoke about with Theoden's force. You're going to have two contingents. You're going to have the foot, which is, Garnbury Garn, I've never played as him, but I've played against him, and I've heard a lot of players, he's not too shabby.
No, he's not. He's
got
alright.
3 might, he's decent. Woods Warriors got blowpipes. They could do a similar job, like you say, objective grabbing or sitting in a certain area. And just pinging people with a blowpipe to keep them away.
You could keep. What would be fantastic is what it's like when you're playing, especially the what you dot objectives around the board. It's really important that sometimes you'll put them in areas of difficult terrain to make it more difficult for your opponent to get there. These guys can just ignore that difficult terrain and get to them a little bit easier. And how often as well have you seen a piece of difficult terrain which you've thought, if the enemy goes in there, I'm not even going to bother trying to contest that objective. Whereas now you can just plant one of your waypoints on there, and it just makes it that much easier to take those extra objectives. Because there's just been times where I'm just not even going to bother. Not even going to bother. Whereas now
you forfeit it from the get go.
Pretty much. Whereas now that makes you rethink which objectives you might think to go for, and again where your opponent might think about placing objectives, and now because of those waypoints they might think, well, there's no point in replacing it in.
It's a twofold benefit.
It is, so I think this one puts a lot of doubts in your opponent's mind as to the way that they would normally play the game. So 4 very cool special legendary legions, very different to everything that we've seen so far, and 2 very cool new profiles. So I think we will see quite a lot of these coming up. I think with the popularity of War in Rohan, I think we will see these on the table quite a lot.
I think Riders of Eomer and Helms Deep more so. I think all of them are definitely worth a run out. To see what they can do.
Definitely. So I'm looking forward to getting them on the table. And I think with that we have given our thoughts, our feelings, our opinions, which are our own. And we are not
sponsored by.
We're not sponsored by anything. We're not kind of top level players. So if you kind of you might have been. Well,
a podium once.
I came 10th of Desolation of Stockport in 2018. This is kind of how I would interpret the rules, and this is how I would tend to play them. But I'm excited about what these have in store for us. So I think we'll call it there.
And don't forget, guys, you can help support the channel. If you want to keep seeing more of these videos that we're able to put in front of you, do check out the links below. We have an affiliate link with Element Games. We have a Patreon set up, which makes all this possible.
Pays for the studio.
It does.
Keeps the lights on.
And the patrons are the guys that sort of keep giving us the fire in our belly to to keep doing this, and we love it, to be fair.
We do indeed.
There's lots of other links and different bits in there for all our social media, but any support that you can give in any way, shape or form, whether it's supporting on Patreon or even just a like on Facebook, it all helps in our journey. So yeah, check those out, guys.
Thanks for watching. See you later, guys.